Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Grammy-winning Canadian jazz trumpeter Darren Barrett. We spoke to him on January 7th, 2022 about his life in music, the COVID world, and releasing his new 2021 CD, Live and Direct, Dee's Theme. During these modern times of very little live music, he was born to Jamaican parents, and after he heard Miles Davis's Round About Midnight, he was hooked on that jazz feeling. He has had some sage guidance over the years from the likes of the legendary Dr. Donald Byrd and others. Enjoy his story.
Well, hey, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
So what's been going on lately? I know that you had a live CD come out last year, but, with COVID and everything that's been going on, how have things been going?
Everything's been going, well as it can be under the conditions. I've just been working in DB Studios, which is my private studio, on projects. Because I have 16, now 15 unreleased records. And the live one was, one of the 16 that was unreleased. And I wanted to put that one out first out of this batch. And I have more that I got to sift through because we're always recording. Now, once we, went into COVID, a lot of that stuff slowed down because I was always doing sessions at the studio. So we're not really having anybody over here to do sessions. But, I figured out how to do, sessions remotely where people will lay tracks. So we're still recording, still full steam ahead.
Right on. Was there anything about this being live because of what we've been going through and there hasn't been live music? Was that kind of a premeditated thing?
You better believe it. I said, because... hey, we live for live music. We love live music, and people, we're musicians are for the people. We practice all this stuff. We learn all this stuff for the people, to bring it to the people. So, that has been taken away temporarily, from the people. So I said, hey, you know what? I have, many live records in the vaults. Let me go through them and let me drop, the people could hear, live music, because it's just a treasure. It's really a treasure,
Absolutely. What do you miss the most about that? I mean, it's been quite a time since March of 2020. What are you longing for the most from that world that just abruptly changed back then?
Wow, that's a deep question. Just human contact. Just to be able to, I guess, I don't want to say that we take things for granted. I definitely don't, but, we have freedoms, and it seems like some of the freedoms has just been taken away, just getting together, collabing and coming to the studio and working on music together, rehearsals, working out music and gigs and all that stuff has just stopped. Even though humans will always figure things out, as you've seen. With live streaming and all these kind of things that have really became strong in the industry, which I believe shouldn't go away once we are clear of what we're going through. So, that's, I really miss just the human interaction with my fellow musicians, and bringing the music to the people.
Well, and this has been a big time of self-reflection, too. So is there anything that you've learned about yourself during this time that maybe you didn't realize before that's going to make you stronger as we reemerge into the live music environment?
That's a good question. I'm always, I see myself as a work in progress. So I'm always trying to work on my art. I'm trying to always strive to get a better sound, better technique, more romance in the sound, better writing skills, better production skills. So I'm always trying to work on myself. But I think with this whole halt, it really gave me time to really sit and reflect on everything and really put things in perspective. You know what I mean? And one of the big things is just the importance of your body of work. Because ultimately, that's what will be left behind, is your body of work, And it's miraculous, as short of a life that Clifford Brown had, he recorded a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So we had that huge body of work from Clifford, but the norm now is, you may do a record a year or one record every 3 years. So people's body of work is not as vast. So, I'm really trying to look at things and just say, hey, I'm trying to get to the point where I'm maybe releasing 3, 4 records a year. So it's a lot of work, but it's fun. And, when you work on record projects, that brings in all your skills that you have, so it's a real challenge.
So let's go back to your beginnings. You have Jamaican roots. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how jazz became your life.
Ooh, okay. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. My parents are from Jamaica, right? So basically kind of what happened, my dad played alto saxophone, loved jazz. He was a jazz musician, semi-professional. And with Jamaican kids, right, or Jamaican descent, the way we're raised is we learn trades. So my dad, he could fix cars, he could do roofing, he could do plumbing, he could do electrical, he could do sheetrock, he could do bricklaying. So he passed all that stuff down to us. So I could do a lot of that stuff, right? That's just part of, the way, yard kids or Jamaican kids are raised. And the mothers, they teach you how to keep the house clean, how to cook, how to take care of your clothes and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a pretty rich upbringing. But my dad had 5 kids and they were all 2 years apart. So a lot of mouths to feed, right? So just playing music, he couldn't make enough money. So the next best thing was to fix cars. So we started fixing 18-wheelers, right? And to, provide for the family. But since he couldn't do music, we all had to do music. So all my brothers, there's 5 of us. My sister Valerie, she's the oldest, and I'm the youngest. She went into the legal field, law. But all the other brothers, they were all musicians. And it just came to a point where my dad was like, all right, what do you want to play? And it was like mandatory. So that's how all that came about.
So talk to me a little bit about Round Midnight with Miles Davis. Why that particular album was such an eye-opener for you?
Awesome. I came home from school, and my dad was playing this record, Around About Midnight, Miles Davis. I didn't know it was Miles Davis. I didn't even know it was a trumpet. I think I was like maybe in the 6th grade. I walked in the house, and just as I walked in, that track came on, and the sound was so deep and personal. It stopped me in my tracks. And my dad could see the look on my face like, whoa, what is that? So I said, Dad, who is that? And he said, a great trumpet player named Miles Davis. And I said, what is he playing? Because I didn't even know it was a trumpet because it's in the mute. He said, that's a trumpet. And I said, yeah, the thing is from the instrument with 3 buttons. He said, yeah. I said, that's what I want to play. That sound was so mysterious to me. It had such a sense of like longing. I was like, wow, man, that's deep. I want to play that. And maybe 8 months later, in the Barrett household, growing up, we did all our business in the kitchen. So whenever we had to do family business, it was always done in the kitchen. So I came home, and everybody was in the kitchen. And that usually means I messed up because I wasn't invited. So they're talking about me. So my dad said, hey, okay, come on in. And I saw the trumpet. Now, at this point, I investigated the trumpet. I know how it works and everything. I know the size. So I look on the table, and I see a case. You dig? And I know it's a trumpet. And so I was like starry-eyed, So he said, son, we've been saving to buy you this trumpet. And here it is. So I open up the trumpet, and it's gold, So dig this. I go to grab it, and my dad's hand intercepts my hand and stops me from touching it. So right off the bat, I felt, conditions. You dig? So I was like, what do I got to probably clean up the house, clean up the yard for like a year, to offset this. So he said, son, before you pick it up, I want you to do this for me. And I said, and so my dad is talking, and in my household, my father was like king, so whenever my dad would walk in the room, we'd have to stand up to greet him, So I'm listening. So he says, I want you to take this instrument and practice. Work on it. Love what you're doing. Study. Be good to this. Because that instrument there will bring you a lot of joy. That instrument will bring people a lot of joy. And he said this, which got me dreaming. He said, that instrument is your passport to the world. And I was like, whoa. I'm a kid, He's talking. I'm like, yeah. So then I grabbed it, and that was it. That was it.
Right on.
Yeah, my dad was good people, man. Good people.
That's good, man. So you went on to Berklee. Talk to me a little bit about developing and getting your sound and style at Berklee.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So how can I say this? I figured out how to get out of high school early in Toronto. All I needed was a certain amount of credits. As long as you get to those credits, you're done with high school. So I said, okay, if I go to summer school for these next 2 summers, I could get out of, high school a couple years early. I did that. So I was able to get out of high school when I was, maybe 15 or 16. And I was able to get into Humber College. And I did, I think, 2 years at Humber College. Then I transferred to Berklee. Because Berklee was where I always wanted to go. But it's expensive, right? And coming from Canada, especially those times, the dollars, the Canadian dollar to the American dollar, man, it was like maybe around 75 cents, right? So everything was just mega, mega expensive. And there was no way was I going to be able to go to Berklee without a scholarship. So I heard about the Win Players Scholarship, which was a 4-year tuition. And that was the only way. So they were having auditions in Boston. My parents got enough money together to fly me out. And I flew out alone. I flew out to Boston. And it was do or die. And this is not ego. I knew I was going to get it because I had to. Because this was my dream. So I went there with the mindset to take what I needed. So I got into the audition, and I just stood and delivered. And I got the 4-year scholarship. Because there was no way was I going to be able to go to Berklee without that. And I think the life that I love would have been really different if that didn't happen.
Yeah, totally. And then at Queens College, you come under the influence of your father figure, Donald Byrd. Talk to me. That had to be a huge, huge moment for you in your life.
Wow. Yeah, I'm getting emotional. Oh, man. When I was at Berklee, this is what I'm being transparent. I think my 3rd year at Berklee, Roy Hargrove came to Berklee. Roy, boy, had a sound like Hercules, powerful, little guy, little dude, man, with a big sound. So Roy came to Berklee to Boston. He was just blowing up the whole campus, man. And there's a tenor player named Sam Newsom. He used to play with Terrence Blanchard in the 80s and early 90s. I think he played on the Malcolm X Suite, those records. He came up to me and said, yo, D, you sound nice, but, man, you got to work on your sound. You know, you got to get a bigger sound. And he said there's a trumpet teacher that taught Terrence and Winton in New Jersey. They call him Profs. And his name is William Fielder, and he teaches at Rutgers University. I'm going to link you up with him. He's going to help you develop, get your tone together. So I said, hey, man, make it happen. So he made that happen for me. And I started commuting from Boston all the way to New Brunswick for an hour lesson. It would take me like 8 hours to get for a 1 hour lesson. And I did that for like 6 months. And this was when I was just about to graduate from Berkeley. And I had gotten a full scholarship to study with William Fielder at Rutgers to do my master's and doctorate in classical trumpet, right? Now, in one of those lessons, he said, hey, I got a surprise for you today. I said, what is it? He said, you'll see. So we did that lesson in the auditorium. In the middle of the lesson, I saw a man come in, and he started walking down the stairs towards me. And as he got closer, I said, is that Donald Byrd? And as he got closer, it was Donald Byrd. But at that point, Donald Byrd had lost some weight. So he looked, he was much thinner, because he was always kind of like a little heavier, right? And he had lost a lot of weight. So I was like, whoa, Donald Byrd. So, Profs introduced me to him. And Donald was like, hey, Profs have told me about you, and said you're very talented, and I'm just here to hang out with you. I'd like to hear you. So we hung out for maybe around 4 hours, and I was just playing for him. He was taking me through all these things. And he said, I know you're going to be studying with Profs in September, but I'm going to be teaching at Queens College, and I'd like to invite you to come study with me. And I was like, whoa. And so I said, I'd love to, but I can't because I'm going to be studying with Profs. And so what had to happen, back then when you had mentors, they were like your parents. So I had to go to Profs, William Fielder, and get his blessing. If Fielder would have said, no, you're staying here, then I would have had to stay at Rutgers. But Fielder was like, no, that's why I brought him here, because to help you. So if you want to go with Donald, go. So that's how I linked up with Donald Byrd, and that was through William Fielder.
You've been around a lot of people throughout your career, a lot of people that are veterans and legends and luminaries like Donald. What have they taught you that you in turn have taught your students that you teach now?
Wow. This is probably the best interview I've ever done, because the questions are it just hits the heart.
Good.
I think it's the human element. Donald Byrd loved me. There was 3 of us that he took on as his, kids, and it was just, he was like our dad. So just, nothing musically, it's just the nurturing as like a father and a son. And the amount of time and information that I was with this man every day. In the first year of Queens College, I was living in Manhattan. And he would drop me all the way to Manhattan, because we would be working well in the night. And then he'd drop me to Manhattan, and I'd take the train back in, and just Monday through Sunday. It was crazy the amount of time that this man gave me, and the amount of love and information about music, about business, about being a black man. So much information. And so what I try to pass on to my students is just that human element that, listen, if we're going to study, I'm going to give you everything I can give you. And that could never be enough for what my mentors gave me. But I will give you everything that I can give you to this day. And once you work with me, as long as I'm here on this earth, I'm in your corner. However I could help you, I'm there.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, your students. But ultimately, you live your life. You have a perception of yourself. Who do you think you are?
Ooh, I'm not a perfect man. I'm a Gemini. So Gemini, hey, we're all over the place. But I have a Libra. So the Libra is a scale. So the Libra balances out all that craziness, But, I think that I'm a hard worker. I'll really put the time in to do my best to get things right. I'll study. I'm very passionate about what I do because I feel that this is our time on earth. This is our time to do what we're here to do. So let's get to it. Let's work on it and let's do it, So I just think that I'm a person that's passionate about what they're doing, that loves what they're doing, that loves life, and is really just trying to put their best foot forward to do what I'm doing. And one of the main things that I'm really trying to do is just to put the trumpet in different spaces. Right now I'm working on a metal record. I'm working on electronica, all kinds of different things where you may not hear the trumpet. And you hear it and you're like, whoa, that's different. I'm just trying to get to some other things. I'm jumping into the quarter tone world. So, I think, when I was a student at Berkeley, I heard about a mission statement. Every college has a mission statement. And I'm like, man, every musician should have a mission statement. What are you trying to do? And I'm really just trying to put the trumpet in different places where you may not have heard it. And that's, a lot of that stuff is through production. That's why I'm so blessed to have my own studio to really work on production, to just really deal with different things. But all that takes learning production and engineering. And so everything that we do takes a lot of work, but at the end of the day, we're blessed. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah. Darren, thank you, man, for opening up about the new live album, your life and music. I really appreciate your time today.
Wow, I appreciate this. This really hit my heart. Fantastic
Good.
questions. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Darren for his time, music, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.